All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a chilling, totally original fictional horror story about isolation, deadly secrets, and, well, a construction job gone horribly, horribly wrong. This narrative was crafted by YouTube creator Amon Parker, and honestly, it is an absolute masterclass in building tension. It takes something we can all relate to, trying to prove yourself at a new job, and twists it into a literal nightmare. We're going to break down how this terrifying tale goes from a quiet, safe corporate office all the way to a blood-soaked, pitch-black forest in New Mexico. If you're a fan of well-structured horror and psychological thrills, you are absolutely going to love how this whole thing unfolds today.
Now, I want you to imagine hearing this exact, frantic quote. Go to the basement if you want to stay alive. Go to the left, not the right. Drops us right into the climax, doesn't it? Imagine the sheer panic. You're trapped in this remote cabin, the people outside have literally stopped acting human, and you finally get a bar of cell resection to call the property owner for help. But instead of calling the cops, he hits you with this desperate command to hide and a terrifyingly specific warning to avoid the right side of the basement. Boom! This single moment shifts the entire story from a spooky little mystery into a full-blown fight for actual survival.
So how on earth did we get to that nightmare scenario? Well, we have to look at our protagonist, Mehul. He comes from serious privilege. His dad owns Mehul & Sons, which is this massive, globally successful construction empire over in India. Mehul's lived a pretty sheltered, carefree life, kind of to his father's frustration, actually. So, wanting to truly test his son's capabilities, Mr. Mehul assigns Mehul to oversee a brand new redevelopment project. But plot twist, this isn't some sleek, fancy high-rise in London. No, it's an isolated, super creepy wooden cabin deep inside a notoriously dangerous forest in New Mexico, a place completely swarming with dark local legends. The author brilliantly uses this extreme shift in environment to just completely strip away Mehul's entire safety net.
And the dread, it starts creeping in immediately. See, Mehul wasn't supposed to just go in blind. His highly competent cousin, who was also kind of his mentor, Ratan, went to the US first to get the site set up. At first, Ratan was sending these detailed daily updates. But then, nothing. Total radio silence. For 2 full days, the emails just completely stop. No messages, 0 calls. It's that exact eerie, unexplained silence that forces Mehul to jump on a flight to New Mexico 3 days early. He's not trekking into this haunted forest for business anymore. He's going because his most trusted cousin has vanished without a single trace.
Now, when Mehul finally pulls up to this remote cabin, Ratan is nowhere to be found. Instead, he runs into 3 laborers, and let me tell you, they are unnervingly strange. They claim Ratan hired them, but the second Mehul asks where Ratan actually is, dead silent. And it gets worse. As the sun starts going down, they just casually bring up this terrifying local legend about 10 bodies that went missing in this exact forest, just swallowed up by the woods. Then the psychological horror really kicks into overdrive. Over the course of the evening, one by one, these laborers step outside. But they don't leave. They just stand there at the edge of the property, slowly turning around to blankly stare right back at the cabin. Just staring.
You could feel the panic building rapidly here. Mehul realizes he's trapped. Those staring laborers are basically guarding the perimeter now, and their behavior is spiraling from weird and unhelpful to just straight-up supernatural. In total desperation, Mehul scrambles up to the 2nd floor, literally pressing his phone against the glass of the window, just begging for a single bar of cell service. He frantically dials the property owner, demanding to know what is going on. And that is the exact moment he receives that terrifying directive we talked about earlier. Get to the basement and go left.
Okay, so what does he actually find behind that left basement door? This is the massive turning point. Mehul flips on a flashlight and uncovers a hidden cache. Sitting right there in the dark is a heavy crossbow next to a handwritten, blood-chilling note with just 3 words. Kill them. Arrows poisoned. Think about what that means for a second. In a fraction of a heartbeat, Mehul realizes he is not dealing with some intangible ghosts or restless spirits. I mean, you don't need poisoned arrows for ghosts, right? Whatever is waiting outside that cabin is physical, it's incredibly deadly, and it can be killed.
And then, the horrific reality of what he's up against hits him. He heads back upstairs, and a creature suddenly breaches the pitch-black kitchen. Mehul shines his light, and at first, it looks like one of the laborers. But right before his eyes, the man's body completely contorts, transforming into this towering animalistic beast. It's letting out this terrifying growl, and the whole room fills with a deeply foul, rotting stench. The author's pulling heavily here from the lore of shapeshifters, or skinwalkers, which are huge in American Southwest mythology. Pure panic sets in. Mehul fires the crossbow, strikes the creature, and actually watches it revert back to its monster's form as it hits the floor.
This is where the tension just totally explodes. Mehul instantly realizes this cabin isn't a safe haven anymore. It's a death trap. So he abandons the house, sprinting dead into the pitch-black woods in a breathless, absolute desperate bid to survive. Imagine that! All he can hear is the sound of his own frantic footsteps and the terrifying realization that another one of those shape-shifting laborers is right on his heels. He does manage to turn and shoot the second creature, but guys, this nightmare is far from over.
Because the horror just keeps escalating. Mehul barely gets a second to catch his breath against a tree when a third creature drops directly out of the branches right above him. The impact is completely devastating. It instantly shatters his crossbow into useless pieces. So suddenly, the sheltered son of a billionaire is stripped of everything. He's reduced to his absolute primal instincts, literally fighting for his life in the dirt, chucking heavy rocks at a monstrous entity that's just tossing him around like a rag doll.
But Mehul refuses to let this forest be his grave. Against all odds, right as the creature lunges in for what should be a fatal strike, Mehul spots something in the dirt. It's 2 leftover poisoned arrows from his shattered crossbow. Calling on every last ounce of desperate strength he has, he grabs one and drives it straight through the beast. He survives the immediate physical threat, collapsing in total exhaustion. He actually did it. He defeated all 3 monsters. But man, the author saves the absolute most brutal twist for last. As Mehul is catching his breath, he hears footsteps coming out of the dark. And it's Rattan. His beloved cousin is alive. He's battered, he's injured, but he's rushing forward to pull Mehul into a tight hug. Now I want to ask you this. Really put yourself in his shoes. Forced to make a split-second decision right here, what do you do? Because as Rattan throws his arms around him, Mehul's nose catches something horrifying. Rattan smells exactly like that foul, rotting odor of the shapeshifters he just killed. Mehul has a fraction of a second to choose between trusting his eyes, which are showing him his brother, or trusting his instincts.
Trusting his senses, Mehul makes the devastating, gut-wrenching choice to pull his last hidden arrow and stab it directly into Rattan's chest. And as the body falls, it transforms into a shapeshifter. Mehul was right. But obviously there's no joy in it. He storms back into the cabin, completely enraged, and violently breaks down that forbidden right basement door. Instantly, an overpowering stench fills the air, and inside he uncovers the awful truth the property owner was hiding. 4 real, rotting bodies. The 3 original human laborers, and the real Rattan. They had been dead long before Mehul ever even landed in America.
The truly grim reality of the whole situation comes to light once the local authorities finally arrive. It turns out, the real villain here wasn't even the supernatural monsters, it was corporate greed. The property owner knew his land was cursed. He knew full well that shapeshifters had killed previous tenants, but instead of, abandoning the property, he hid the truth. He hired an overseas company, Mehta & Sons, hoping to just cheaply renovate the house, flip it, and sell it. He deliberately treated the lives of Rattan and those local laborers as acceptable collateral damage, all just to save a real estate investment.
The story closes on an incredibly somber note, with Mehul bringing his cousin's body back home to India, completely and forever changed by the horrors he faced in those New Mexico woods. And that wraps up our explainer of this incredibly tense, fantastic narrative by Amon Parker. Now, the creator explicitly states that this is a work of fiction, right? A creative exercise in terror. But it leaves us with this fascinating, really unsettling point. Lore about skinwalkers and shapeshifters, that has existed for centuries. Real people claim to have encountered them. So as you turn off your screen today, I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought. Yes, this was just a story, but given the vast, unexplored, and deeply isolated corners of our world, is someone out there actually experiencing this right now? Think about that tonight.